Welcome to TradeTheNBI.com. This is John. This report is for the 10th of December. Well, I've shrunk the daily chart just so you could get a broader perspective of where we began the year. Up there in the mid-26 range, 2680s. And the amount of climb from late 17 all the way through. And it just is interesting here as we've opened up futures. Not that bad. We had already had these levels that we had talked about from the 2635 right there, moved below, got very close to that 2603, which was the low. We also have 2600 as a target point within what was a sell, except for the fact we've got a little bit of rising steel, which means that there's some short-term buyers who are buying up this dip down to the double bottom. We also noticed that we have a higher shakeout, so along with the extremes. Bounce point, very, very potential. At the end of the day, it's interesting to be seeing an economy that is growing as significant as it is, potentially close to finishing below where it was for the year. This would suggest that, as some people have said, that Fed tightening has been very effective in pretty much giving the market the belief that, potential, if not recession, at least a significant slowdown will occur because of it. And it's something I've been talking about for, half a year. So no surprise with that. The NQ doing better overall than the S&P in general. So there's some support there. Strength to the euro because the expectation is that maybe the Fed has to stop. Enough pressure's put there, so that's pushing the euro back up. We already saw that because we could see that it was making the exact same thing that we're seeing for the market. It didn't make as steep a low, but the shakeout continuing to rise, and then it creates higher pivots for the red DOC, making that an easy one to recognize. Again, the flight to safety, some people would rather put their money just aside to avoid the volatility. And does it look like the volatility is going to end? Not necessarily. I mean, of course, you had the whole China thing, but that's a little bit of a misnomer for the volatility. A lot of it is this unknown speculation as to how slow things will get and how fast. There's still that, for longer term traders, that fear of a decade ago with the collapse still has them thinking, hey, I want to be out early enough, or at least rotate to where they're protected. Saudi Arabia cutting its production dramatically, the suggestion being that potentially there won't be enough demand, so that has kept oil, but we knew this wasn't going to recover anytime quick with that shakeout reading at minus 26 is crazy. And of course, the defense into gold has started. So we expected that to start to break out as we noticed positive shakeout here, and it's only been rising from there. We filled in the positive extreme with the move back over here, so starting to do what was expected. So if we go to our 5K chart, look at it from a broader perspective here, we saw that Thursday spike filled back in, and then we started to move back up to break out past those highs, except for we started putting in exactly these lovely sell signals that I like to point out, where you have the crossovers of the green below the orange rising above, the steel crossing below. Don't quite have the cyan over red DOC, but moving towards the zero. So you have a little bit of an expectation. Didn't quite fulfill itself all the way, but then produced exactly the same configurations going through here, and that led to the beginning of a breakdown that just continued. We had a couple of buys that came through in between that short, which meant, hey, from way up there at the 27, which is where I was shorting there, covered, took a couple of the longs, and then boom, new short setups, took those. Back and forth, you had a couple of much smaller buys that generated themselves in there, but they also produced the exact same sell configurations, and that produced new lows and some more buys. So it was very healthy from a decline standpoint. And if we keep just scrolling across, you can see it was quite an extensive day as far as those declines and bounces. Was another buy right in there that took place, short-lived with the positive extreme. So it generated those shorts pretty quick, and then towards the end of the day, we got some more peaks. I don't have to go that far. And this was the very last short at the end of the day, and I actually came down, covered a portion, but then held a final position. I think it was up at the chart. I wanted to see where the actual entry 26.45, which was pretty much spot on. I was a little bit below what the actual close was, a little slow on that one, and gap down has already filled itself back up. Of course, this was some of the concerns with the China, and nice move from a DOC reading. Shakeout happened even before I was awake, so if you're on the West Coast or something like that, it was an easy reset with a little double pop down below. And this is another interesting one, particularly at bottoms. Oftentimes you'll get this initial breakdown, and then you get the slow ebb, and usually it's the secondary buy signal from the higher DOC reading that will be right or at near the 23%. In this case, we had the 26.18 as previous algo, as well as the 26.13. You can see that's exactly what we pivoted off of. You had some wicks that went below it, but those closes were right along there. And that's what's causing the early move higher. And it still looks like it has a little bit more left in it, so it's going to try and fill in some of that gap, or at least probably make it to our Morganachi 50%. Would not be a surprise there. So it's fairly clean action, I think. This isn't really, despite the increase in volatility, we're not getting any disparaging readings that are like bizarre or anything out of the ordinary. So I don't think there's anything to be really concerned about as far as that goes. It seems very clean algorithmic activity. So I don't think there's any reason not to be aggressive with it, simply because you have that opportunity to really make substantial gains with some of these trades. I mean, if you figure from the 45, even to where the close was down at the 36, was a good 10 plus points. And then, of course, with this breakdown, would have been even more significant. I'll probably be looking to see when we get to a overdone situation to the situation. Depends on how it goes, obviously. So there's a stop still in place. So these are the things that you can just play with. I wasn't really concerned about it. Significant gap to the upside, even though we had a little bit of a positive move. The orange did not reset below red, and so there was a potential that it could still be a little bit higher. Didn't happen, and still early though. Plenty of time left. Now that they've approached almost the open, was 25, which is right where we're at now, and what was the overall high? Got up to 29.75. I think that would be, and that's consistent right here with the 28.50 previous algo level, kind of supported off that before. So would not be surprised to test that from the high side. So we'll go from there. As always, though, I will keep putting up relevant charts on the Skype chat and let you know as continue to progress. Was looking at evaluations on the 50K. Program is doing fantastic. If we go to the performance report real quick, just to see where its equity highs are. Slide that up a little bit so you can get a better view. It's at the peak. Not bad. There it is from month by month, and the overall 1.33. Making adjustments on it right now. I've been going through this, and especially you see some of these additional lines where we're going to match DOC readings with MBI original white candle readings that will avoid some of those lower moves. And I'm hoping to move that profit factor up into the 2.5, 3 range, which would be phenomenal. So very excited about working on that setup, and it's moving along. And then we'll be able to incorporate it within the 5K chart, which is the obviously the ultimate goal, because that will generate more trades, maximum returns is the idea. As always, though, look for me on that Skype chat, and we will talk again later. Trade well.